I'm Kate Livy, the Director of Education and the Associate Curator here at the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum. And I'm excited to welcome you back to another installment of Chesapeake Treasure, where we explore one of the 68,000 objects in our collection, the stories and heritage behind it. So today I am here in the museum's small boat shed, and behind me is a very cool object in our collection. This is the Levi Rayfield Canoe. So many of you, when you think about a canoe, you might be thinking of, kind of something that you might paddle recreationally, and our modern day canoes are really iterations of sort of the traditional Native American watercraft. Now, here in the Chesapeake, unlike, say, in New England or other parts of the United States, the Native Americans in the Chesapeake used dugout canoes. So the method of construction was really one tree large enough in circumference to be, dug out in the middle with fire and oyster shells to be scraped out, and so eventually you'd have one vessel out of a single tree that could hold 10 people. And you can imagine the size of the trees that they would have used for this. And there are descriptions of war canoes that could be up to 40 feet in length, holding 20 people. So these are massive, massive trees that really talk about the abundance of the environment in 400 years ago when John Smith explored the Chesapeake. Now, interestingly, for Chesapeake Bay boat building, the canoe really remained pretty influential in terms of European settlement and ongoing boat construction. So when the European settlers arrived, they didn't discard the Native American techniques. Instead, they embraced them. So some of the earliest vessels in the Chesapeake that were built from the colonial period onward are really these canoes. So initially they would have been one single log, but as large trees were felled for lots of different reasons, they started to put the logs together and shape them to make canoes that you might see, around the turn of the century. Now, these were essentially kind of like the pickup trucks, the Ford F-150s of the Chesapeake. You hauled, you sailed, you got from place to place, you went out, you could oyster, you could fish in these vessels. They were easy to sail for one person and easy to get around. Now, they had really one elemental feature that you see really across all these different kinds of canoes. They were sailboats. But the one behind me today is definitely not. It's a power boat, which is really interesting and part of the reason that I wanted to share it with you today. We're standing in front of the Levi Rayfield Canoe, which he built in 1939 when he was 40 years old in Onancock, Virginia, which is down on the eastern shore of Virginia. Now, he's not a boat builder. He's not somebody with, traditional boat building experience. He's not someone that went to school. He was basically somebody that saw a really, really big tree and thought to himself, I'm going to make a boat out of it. So he really just sort of experimented on this enormous tree and created this canoe that you see behind us. Now, it's a 3-log canoe. Most of the time, a lot of the contemporary canoes that were built at the turn of the century had more than that, maybe 9 logs or 7 logs. But he has 3, and that's because the tree that he used for the center board is absolutely enormous. It's about 40 inches wide, which is just huge. Now, the thing is that Levi Rayfield was, progressive. He didn't want a sailing canoe. He wanted a power boat. So he created something that's, so unusual, which is a canoe that's been shaped to power. So it would have had an engine inside that he actually shaped this main log around. So he created a power boat using the most traditional techniques, yet adapting it to his purposes. And the thing that I love the most about it, when he's done, he doesn't even name it. It's not the Miss Annie D or the Molly J. He didn't name it after his wife. He didn't name it after his mother. He didn't name it after anybody. For him, it was just a tool. So today, we just call it the Levi Rayfield Canoe because he was pragmatic. And in his mind, this was going to get him out on the water, this was going to get him oystering and getting from place to place. So it's a reminder that although we've become very sort of nostalgic and rosy tinted in the way that we feel about Chesapeake Bay boats, at the end of the day, they were tools to do a job. And this is a very unique and interesting tool from my perspective. So if you come here to the Maritime Museum, be sure to stop by the small boat shed and check out the Levi Rayfield Canoe, which is surrounded by lots of other smaller and idiosyncratic vessels from our collections. So So thank you for joining us today for Chesapeake Treasure. I hope you've enjoyed learning about one of our really unique boats in our collection. And join us next week for another installment here on Facebook where we'll explore another fascinating object in our collection. Have a great afternoon.